Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In this tutorial series, we are designing this product launch website using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now in the previous video, we designed the hero section of our website and this is how it looks. Now in this video, we will design this core benefits section over here. So let's get started. Alright, this is our source code, and before getting started with the benefits section, let's go ahead and add a line of CSS for this whole page wrapper. So if you go back to the HTML file, here we can see that we have this main container division with the class of page wrapper. And right now, if we just zoom in a little bit, we can see that we are able to scroll to the right. That's because of this BG shape that we have over here. So for that, we'll just go back to the CSS and let's add one line of CSS for the page wrapper. So here, let's go ahead and type dot page wrapper. Let's set the overflow X to hidden. And now we cannot scroll to the right. So now let's go ahead and start with our features section. So let's go back to our HTML file, and here we can see that the header ends over here. Let's create a section with a class of features. And in this section, we will have a container division so that we have a specific max width. Now in this, we need to have a division for this section where we have the header. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have the same type of header for all these other sections. So let's go back over here and let's create a division with the class of section header. And in this, we need to have this text over here first. So for that, we'll just create a span. And I'll just add this text, core benefits. And then for the heading, let's create an H2. And here let's type why choose Nova task. I'll just copy this and paste it over here. And after that, we need to have the features list. So let's create a container division for this. And let's give it a class of features layout. And in that, we will have each of these feature item. So let's tap feature item. Now in this, we need to have the icon. So let's create a division with the class of feature icon. And let's add a font awesome icon over here. So let's create an I tag. And let's give it a class of FA brain. So here we can see we have this brain icon. And after that, we need to have the feature text. So let's create a division for that. Let's create a division with the class of feature text. And in this, we will have an S3. And let's add this heading over here. And after that, we need to have this text. So let's copy this. And let's create a paragraph and let's add the text over here. Now let's go ahead and copy and paste this feature item 3 more times because we have 4 features in total. So I'll just paste it 3 more times. And let's change the content. So for the second one, let's change the icon to this icon right here. So for this, we need to type FA bullseye. So here we can see we have this icon. Let's change the text. I'll just copy this and paste it right here. And let's copy this and let's paste it over here. And then we have the next one. And for this icon, we have to give it a class of chart pie. And let's copy the text. Let's paste it over here. And let's copy this paragraph. And let's paste it over here. And lastly, we have another icon, which is this one right here. So for that, we need to type FA sync alt. So here we have this icon. And let's copy this text and paste it over here. And let's copy this text and let's paste it over here. And with that, we have finished writing the HTML for the featured section. So let's go outside the section and let's create a comment. I'll just tap end of features section. Right now, let's start adding the CSS and let's start making it look like this. So let's go to the style.css file. Let's create a comment and let's type features section. And first of all, let's target the section header. And in the section header, we have these 2 text. We have this span and this heading. So first of all, let's make it center aligned. So let's type text align center, and then let's type margin bottom of 3 rems. Now let's target this span inside the section header. So let's type section header span, and let's set the font size to 0.875 rem, and let's go ahead and set the color to var primary color, and let's set the font weight to 600. Let's set the text transform to uppercase. Let's set the letter spacing to 0.05 rem, and let's set the margin bottom to 0.5 rem. Right now let's target this h2. So let's type section header h2, and let's add a margin bottom of 0.25 rem. Now here we can see for the features section we have a different background. So let's target the features division. So here we can see we have this section with a class of features. So let's target this. I'll just type dot features, and let's add a background color over here. So let's type background color, and we'll create a variable called section bg. So let's type section bg. So let's scroll up, and let's add the variable over here. So here let's create a variable called section bg light, and let's set the color to 718096, and let's add it for the dark color as well. So let's type section bg dark, and for this one let's set the color to 2d3748. Right now let's add the variable that we will use in our CSS. So here let's type section bg, let's set it to var section bg light, and here for the dark version let's type section bg var section bg dark. Right now let's scroll down, and let's add some padding. So let's type padding of 5 rem, top and bottom, 0 for left and right. Now when we change the theme, we can see that the background color changes in a smooth manner. So for that let's add a transition, and let's set it to background color var transition speed ease. Right now let's target the features layout. So here we can see we have this division with the class of features layout. So let's target that features layout. Now in the features layout we have these 4 different features. So we will use a display of grid so that it is placed perfectly. Now here in our website the color is not correct. So let's go back and let's see what's the problem. Here we have set it to section bg. Let's scroll up, and here for the section bg light we have given this color. So I think this is not the right color. We need to give it a lighter color. So let's type F7 FAFC. Now let's go back, and now we can see we have the correct color. Right now let's scroll down, and here right now we can see that the bg shape that we see over here is being displayed inside this section as well. Now if you want to remove this, we can just go ahead and add a position of relative over here, and now we can see that the bg shape is not being displayed. But if you want to keep it, you can just remove this line of code. So let's go ahead and start adding the styles for features layout. Let's set the display to grid. Let's type grid template columns, and let's set it to repeat to 1fr, so it will have 2 columns with the same width. So now we can see that we have these 2 columns. Let's also set a gap. So let's set the gap to 2.5 rem, and this is how it looks. Right now let's target these feature item divisions. So here we can see that we have these feature item divisions for each of the single features. So let's target this division. Here I'll just type feature item, and let's add a background color over here. So we will create a variable called card bg. So let's scroll up and let's create the variable. So here let's type card bg light for the light version, and let's set the color to white. And here for the dark theme, let's go ahead and type card bg dark, and let's set the color to 2d3748. And here let's add the variable that we can use in our code. So let's type card bg var card bg light, and for the dark theme, let's type card bg var card bg dark, and let's scroll down and let's also add a border radius, and let's set it to the variable that we created called border radius, and let's add a padding of 2 rem. Let's also add a box shadow, and let's create a variable for this, and we'll create a variable called card shadow. Let's scroll up and let's create the variable over here. So here for the light version, let's type card shadow light. Let's set the value to 0, 4 pixels, 6 pixels, negative 1 pixel, RGBA, 0, 0, 0 and 0.1. Let's create it for the dark version. So let's type card shadow dark, and let's set the value to 0, 4 pixels, 6 pixels, negative 1 pixel, RGBA, 0, 0, 0 and 0.3. We will add one more shadow for better effect. So let's type comma, 0, 2 pixels, 4 pixel, negative 1 pixel, RGBA, 0, 0, 0 and 0.06. And here for the dark version, let's type comma, 0, 2 pixel, 4 pixels, negative 1 pixel, RGBA, 0, 0, 0 and 0.25. Right now let's go over here and let's add the variables here. So let's type card shadow. Let's set it to var card shadow light, and here let's type for the dark version card shadow var card shadow dark. Let's scroll down and let's continue with the styling. If you go back to our website, here we can see that we have the box shadow being displayed. Right now when we hover over this, we need to have a hover effect. So here we can see when we hover over this, we have this effect. So let's add that hover effect. Let's go back. Let's type feature item colon hover. Let's set the transform to translate y, negative 8 pixels. We'll also add a scale of 1.02, and let's also change the box shadow. Let's set it to 0, 15 pixels, 30 pixels, negative 5 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0.12. Let's add one more box shadow. Let's type 0, 8 pixels, 10 pixels, negative 6 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.1. And we also need to add a transition for smooth hover effect. So let's type transition, and for the transform, let's type 0.3 seconds, cubic bezier, and here let's type 0.25, 0.8, 0.25 and 1. And then for the box shadow, let's type 0.3 seconds, cubic bezier, 0.25, 0.8, 0.25 and 1. And let's also add it for the background color, and we will use the variable that we created for transition speed right here, and let's set it to ease for the easing, and this is how it looks. Right now let's style this icon. So for the icon, we have this class of feature icon. So let's target that. I'll just type feature icon. Let's set the font size to 2.25 rem. Let's set the color to var primary color. Let's add a margin bottom of 1.5 rem. Let's add a padding of 0.75 rem. Let's set the background color to color mix in sRGB. For the first color, let's type var primary color, and let's type 10%. For the second color, let's type transparent. So this will blend the two colors, and this is how it looks. Now we don't want to have this full width for this background, so let's type display of inline flex. Let's also add some border radius for rounded corners. I'll just type border radius of 0.375 rem. Now when we hover over this, we need to make some changes. So we need to rotate it and also change the color. So let's go ahead and add a transition over here. Let's type transform, 0.3 seconds ease, and color 0.3 seconds ease. Let's type feature item colon hover and feature icon. So when we hover with this feature item, we need to add these styles to the feature icon. So here let's type transform, scale of 1.1, rotate to -5 degrees, and let's set the color to var secondary color. So now if you go back here, we can see that we have the correct hover effect. Right now let's style these text. So let's go back and okay, let's type feature text, S3, because here we can see we have this division with the class of feature text, and in that we have this S3. And here let's set the font size to 1.375 rem. Let's set the color to var text color. Let's set the margin bottom to 0.75 rem, and let's set the font weight to 600. Right now let's style this paragraph. So let's type feature text P. Let's set the font size to 0.95 rem. Let's set the color to var text muted. Let's set the line height to 1.7. Let's set the margin bottom to 0. So this is how it looks. If we go to the original design, we can see that we also have this shape over here on the right side of the card, and it also has this hover effect. So let's create this. Let's go back, and we will use a before selector for that, and we need to set the position of that relative to the feature item. So here for the feature item, let's set the position to relative, and let's scroll down, and here let's type feature item colon before. Let's set the position to absolute. Let's set the content to blank, and let's set the top position to negative 50 pixels, and let's set the right position to negative 50 pixels. Let's set the width to 150 pixels, and let's set the height to 150 pixels as well. Let's add a background color of var primary color, and this is how it looks. Let's also set the opacity. So let's type opacity of 0.03, and let's add a border radius of 50% so that we have round shape. Now we don't want this to be selected, so let's set the pointer events to none. And right now we can see that this is being displayed outside the card as well. So let's go back to the feature item, and here we will just type overflow of hidden so that anything outside it will be hidden. So this is how it looks. Now let's add the hover effect. So here let's add a transition for that. Let's type transition opacity 0.3 seconds ease, transform 0.4 seconds ease, and here let's type feature item colon hover colon before. So when we hover over this feature item, we will have these styles added to the before. So let's type opacity of 0.06, and let's go back. Let's also change the scaling. So let's type transform scale of 1.1, and this is how it looks. And with that, we have styled the features section in our website. Now while we are here, let's also add some basic responsiveness. So let's go back, and let's add a media query, and let's type at media max width of, let's try 760 pixels. Let's type features layout. Let's type grid template columns. I'll just type 1 FR because we need to have just one column in larger screens, and let's set the gap to 2 rem. And let's go back, and let's reduce the width of the browser window, and this is how it looks on smaller screens. So everything is working all right. Now for the feature item, let's type feature item, and let's set the padding to 1.5 rem. And for the feature icon, let's set the font size to 2 rem, and let's set the margin bottom to 1 rem. And for the S3 inside feature text, let's go ahead and set the font size to 1.25 rem. So with that, we have also made this responsive. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. In the next video, we will continue adding the other sections of our website. So if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.